This week on Rockstar Superhero.
Time to let it out. Now that all said and done, time is running out. We'll perish all as one, so we let it out. We thought nobody won, everybody's out. What else can you do but...
There's just something about the music business and the interview process that brings me nervous energy, but also affords me the opportunity to connect with someone in a unique and powerful way. Today, I met Joost van der Graaf for the first time and left our conversation approximately an hour later feeling deeply and soulfully connected. It's an amazing experience when that happens, and I hope our chat today engages you the same way. Joost is an amazing musician and songwriter and the creative force behind Choreomanic, the Dutch funk hybrid musical act. The new album, set to release on February 18th, is a fun blast into the future and an homage to the many levels of cool that inspired its progressive creation. Check out the conversation and get inspired by the man, the hype, and the very real and kind human, my friend, Joost van der Graaf, on Rockstar Superhero. I'm so excited that you're here. And
cool, it's my pleasure.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely welcome. I love what I've heard. I'm so excited about sharing, Choreomanic's music with my audience. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly as well. It is Choreomanic, correct?
It is, definitely.
All right.
Yes.
And I grew up in the music business, and even going to college, doing music theory classes, etc. Choreomania is something I actually know a decent amount about, and it was really interesting when the band popped up on my screen. My brain immediately went back to the idea of psychosis and madness, and this idea that this sort of like group singing was almost like considered to be possession, right? Yep. 500-600 years ago. I guess longer than that now. But why did you pick that name? What does choreomania, all these different things, what does it mean to you as an artist and maybe as a nom de plume?
Yep. Well, I got into this subject somewhere in 2019, I think it was.
Gotcha.
And I came across it, and I was instantly fascinated. So I started reading some studies about it, and it was a real fascination, actually, because there are so many. It's like an unsolved mystery, one of the big unsolved mysteries in history.
Right.
And there are so many theories on the cause of this dancing plague, dancing fever, collective psychosis, whatever you name it. And the most plausible explanation to me is that people had been contained in many ways for so long. They've been suffering from church power abuse, black plague, superstition, fear of God, sexual oppression of women, so many things that didn't work well for people. Right. And at some point, something snapped, and it just started somewhere, and it became an infectious way of letting things out. That's to me is the most makes the most sense of all these theories. And so I had this fascination. I had read these studies. Then I started working on this project during the first lockdown in the Netherlands. And as I was going on with that, I had the idea I wanted to do something with this topic, so it's with this thing. And a choreomanic would be a person suffering from choreomania. And it has a clear parallel to me to these times in which we live now, because a lot of people in the like the free countries of the world, they are experiencing ways of certain forms of oppression, I believe. Mm-hmm. And there's so much misinformation, so much tension building up. I mean, we can all agree on that, I think. And so the idea of a certain point where people will start to let things out, and it just seems like a cool parallel to what happened back then, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I chose this name for the project, and also because of the high energy and the idea that people that go mad, so to speak, they experience a certain form of freedom, because you become free when you lose your mind. You become free of everything, and yeah, I think that's a pretty cool idea, actually.
Yeah, I actually agree with definitely. I mean, obviously, the last thing you said there, dancing makes people happy, right? And so it's just kind of odd to me that these now, granted, obviously, we're talking about, in a sense, mass hysteria, right? This large group dynamic that that when it initially started happening, I want to say in the 10th or 11th century.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously it was seen as highly confusing, right? But it was so outside of the sociological box, right? That of course the church is going to look at this and say, well, this looks to be mass possession, and from the church's perspective, I imagine it was literally just that it wasn't just an excuse or a way to categorize it, but they really saw this as an incredibly dangerous and disturbing thing.
Yeah.
And yet dancing, I mean, shouldn't we praising or be happy for people that are just sharing their joy and screaming at the top of their lungs, and they've got a smile on their face the whole time?
Yeah, the thing was, the people just it wasn't really a funny thing, or it wasn't about recreational things. It was something that people snapped and they started dancing, and it wasn't, for some reason it was infectious. But the cool thing also is that it became it were actually festivals in a way, because people, they infected each other. It was more like convulsions, like epilepsy and stuff. And
right.
And some people even died from exhaustion, obviously, and dehydration. But other people that were not infected, they attended these happenings, and there were people selling food, and there were people, and eventually, and that's the most interesting part to me as a musician, eventually musicians joined these hysteric people to accompany them with music, because at first they just started dancing to the music in their heads, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's so incredibly cool about the whole thing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. I don't want to torture you with this topic too much, but something I find really fascinating is, at least in American culture, in American church culture, I grew up in the church. So, I mean, I have a fair perspective, and I'm not this big, righteous, high and mighty, guy. I just, I'm a faith guy, but all that being said, regardless if I'm crazy or not, the thing that I don't like, as an example, within the church community is there almost feels like there's something manipulative at times about music, right? If you go to a large a gathering, there's a famous televangelist in America. His name is Benny Hinn. Are you familiar with this person?
I heard his name. I think I even saw him on TV once. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. So, over the years, memes have been made of this guy for being like the Sith Lord, right? You know what I mean? Like electrocuting people on stage. But there's been a lot of articles written about his church over the years, because if you go to see him in an auditorium, the first hour and a half, 2 hours is worship music, is praise music, and the sort of the slam against his approach is that, well, you're whipping the audience into this music frenzy, right? That people are they succumb to what you're saying on the stage. And it goes back to the idea of what you shared before, which is this large group of people. You have one person sort of, experiencing this mania, and eventually it becomes this large group of people, and they can't control themselves. And it shows that there is something, whether it's spiritual or just getting people together in a group environment, there's something about the human experience that wants to share it with others, whether it's madness or it's joy.
Yeah, or both.
or both, in which case is happening a lot with Choreomania, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So it's so fascinating, the whole thing, and it never gets boring. So I keep on reading about it, and finding out new stuff. So I'm really happy with the name for the project.
Yeah. Well, so COVID was the great equalizer for you then, because it seems like artists are really, really using this time to sort of build their own platforms, right? To write new material, to try different directions, maybe out of boredom or frustration, or, shutting down tours, right? You can't get out with Pestilence, for example. So maybe I'll go over here and do this. Is that kind of how it all worked out for you?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I had this time suddenly. And I felt like, everything was, and everything still is, shut down here in the Netherlands. I heard there's some things going on in the States, but here it's still, there are no nightliners driving with bands and stuff. So, but when it suddenly happened from one day to the next, almost, I had all this time, and I decided to create something without anything in mind, so without any target audience in mind, without any style in mind, just for the joy of playing and creating, and also learning about how to record and just see what happens. It's a really spontaneous effort, and it all starts with a bass. Like I have a bass.
Yeah, buddy.
And when I have a bass, I'm not going to play, and I'm not plugged in or anything. But
okay,
that's the thing. I got kids and everything, and my wife she sleeps in time because she has to work early in the morning.
Sure.
So when I pick up my bass, it's always not plugged in. So and it all starts with rhythms, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
It's just rhythm. So actually, I'm drumming on my bass in a way. And then I have an idea that's based on a rhythm that I play on bass. So that's often the starting point. And then I work from there. And sometimes I have an actual rhythm in mind, so a real drum rhythm. But it always starts with a rhythm. And that's always the starting point. And then I build from there. And somewhere I got the crazy idea to put horns in there.
Yeah.
I thought, and I had this for an instant. I thought, I cannot do that. I'm a metal musician, right? What's up with horns? And then I thought, well, that's interesting. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
If it only were for that reason that I had this thought, why shouldn't I? Why wouldn't I be able to, do this with horns? And I started writing music for horns, which I'd never done before, and I just like that so much, just to do that, to write these things. And so it's, long story short, it's a very spontaneous effort, and I decided to just let it be what it was, and to keep it that way, and raw in a way, and pure, and just get it out there. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I'm so drawn to this. I know my listeners will be too, because they're quite an eclectic bunch, right? But yeah, what's fascinating to me is there's a million death metal bands, right? There's a million hardcore bands. There's a million black metal bands. There's a million metalcore bands. You name it, right? There's a ton of them. And it's not to say that they're all predictable. There's a lot of great musicians within each of those subgenres.
Definitely.
But what I love is bands like yours, this thing you've created, stuff like Igor, or right, or Rings of Saturn, or Frontierer, right, where people are taking chances, because the reality is the listener. It's not that the listener's looking for something radical or wildly different, but they're not looking for the same old thing. Record labels and right, for years they've failed us, right? Because they have forced they've forced us in a lot of ways through payola and whatnot to listen to the same pabble over and over again. So I find immense joy and happiness in discovering you, and that you're out there actively doing this. I am sorry that you can't tour right now, but
one day we will.
One day. So So then, if I may, and I don't want to get into politics too much, but you've been a part of Pestilence since 2019. Is that in your rearview mirror, or is this still a part of your life? It's just not right now.
Well, it is very much a part of my life in the sense that I'm still. Patrick sends me new ideas,
right?
And so I can work on that. And we did some rehearsals spread over the year, over 2021, for some separate shows that we did in Czech Republic. So we did like 5 or 6 shows, which is not too much for a year, but we did some shows. But because of the long time in between, we had to rehearse for all those shows because there was no routine anymore, right? So yeah, but it's definitely still there all the time. But it's less demanding now because of the situation. So I have all this time on my hands, and it can be combined easily because of the situation. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean first of all, I'm glad to hear this because I know Pestilence has obviously gone through changes, as most bands do. Most people don't understand that being in a band is very, very difficult. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were going to say?
Well, Pestilence is it is a band at this moment, but the reality is that of course there's one man who is the carrier of the torch, right? So to speak, whatever. And it's his music, it's his style, it is his thing. But the cool thing now, and I've always known this. I've known Patrick for a longer time, and I grew up with the music of Pestilence, so it was always very inspiring to me, and just I always loved that music. So the first time he asked me to join the band was in 2018. I was too busy with music projects for schools and for work, but also music related work. I remember that I regretted that later on because I saw they were touring South America and doing great things, and I was like, oh man, I want to do that. And that was right around the time that Joost had quit. Life had quit after 27 years of thrash metal, and I missed the touring so much. So I thought, oh man, so I regretted that. And then he came back to me in 2019, and he was like, out of the blue. That's just how he is, out of the blue. Hey man, you're still busy, like that, And I'm like, no man, I'm totally up for what's up. Let's. And he was like, yeah, okay. So, and then he told me that he was about to fire the bass player that he was working with back then. And I was like, yeah, man, let's do this. Let's do this. And that was at that point, I was working towards a very cool tour with Possessed, like a North American tour.
Really?
Yes, with Possessed.
Oh my gosh!
And we were to start in Mexico, the Heaven and Hell Festival with Deep Purple, like awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And then tour the East Coast of the US with Possessed, and also a couple of shows in Canada. So that was really something. I've never been to the States before, so that was something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I worked for that like 4 months, and then literally the day we had to fly, the plug was pulled out of everything, and that was it. So
yeah,
that's how that got started. But apart from that, to get back to your question, like, is it a band? At this point, it is more of a band than I think it has ever been before, because we all know each other quite well.
Yeah,
we're all in the sort of from the same scene, so to speak, and we're all committed, and we're all working hard on this and putting something of our own into the music. So, but at the end of the day, it's still Patrick Mameli, his brainchild, and his project, his thing. But it feels like a band, definitely, at this point.
Yeah.
Let's hope we can get back to the US somehow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I will welcome you personally with open arms. I will run up to the stage and hug you because awesome. Getting you guys over here, however it happens, right, with Possessed or whatever, would just be wonderful, and a chance to experience something so original and such a dynasty of music. Like you said. Pestilence has been around forever. You know what I mean? One of the originators. I mean, I want to say like 86? I mean, a really long time.
Yeah, I think the demo is 87 or something, and then first album 89, and that's where it all went well for the band. And so and Testimony of the Ancients, that is like my landmark album from Pestilence. One of the most important albums from my youth, actually. And I really hope that we can get on the road, because when we do, we will do the parts of the original Testimony of the Ancients anniversary tour, 30th anniversary tour of this album. So that is the album that I grew up with, that I was like totally into when I was 17 years old. And then I get the chance to play the whole album.
Yeah.
That's insane, right?
Staring across the stage from the man that wrote the material.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I would never want Dream Theater to change again, right? I mean, as much as I love Mangini, I mean, I would love to see Portnoy back in the chair because I'm a Dream Theater fan, for example, right? But if John Petrucci called me up and said, "Hey, Rob, we've heard you're playing. We would love you to play on the record," I'm taking that gig, man. You know what I mean?
Of course,
so I mean, I totally get you. The whole choreomanic thing, it is tasty and it's riffy and it's groovy and you found a way to integrate the horns correctly. And I mean this arrogantly, right? Like, I understand music. I understand music theory. I understand rhythms and the value of intonation. I mean, I get it. And the record does not sound like it was accidentally slapped together during, a pandemic. It sounds like this was really well thought out. And I imagine because you are a bass player, I mean, you and I both know this, bass players have a very specific personality. Almost across the board. They tend to be easy to get along with. They tend to keep to themselves a bit. They have a lot to say on their instrument. But they are the keystone in the band, because you've got the drummer who's typically crazy and full of crap, but solid. And then you've got all the other, melodic instrumentalists, and you're the gap, you're the bridge. What were your influences as a bass player? I mean, I hate the influence question, but there has to be a reason you're capable of playing all these styles and you're attracted to all these styles.
Yeah. Well, when I started with music, I actually started as a drummer when I was 14. So drums was my first instruments. It was all about rhythm. And then I learned about harmony by just experimenting and learning the basics of chords and progressions and scales on piano, which makes sense because it's the best instrument to learn theory on and stuff like that, because you can see everything. It has, a guitar or a bass is actually a mystery in a way. And when you have a keyboard or a piano, it all is there. You have overview. So I learned a lot back then when I was really young, and I still started playing songs like the skeleton of songs, like the simple basics of the starting points of what it is, what it's about. When you strip everything, what it is that you have, and guitar also. And at the same time, when I was 14, I picked up bass, and I immediately knew this is my instrument. So I just knew I can play harmonic stuff, melodic stuff. I can play beats. I can play rhythms, anything. It's like, to me, still, it's the most versatile instrument that I can imagine in that sense. And so that's how it started. And I listened to everything. I started with pop music, but also early rock, AC/DC, stuff like that. And I was curious towards everything that I came across. Right. Also fusion bands, bassists like Abraham Laboriel.
Yes.
You know what I mean? People that were just pushing the boundaries.
Victor Wooten.
Of course, Victor Wooten. That was much later, but sure, people like that. But the thing is, and that's interesting. There right now there are so many shredding bass players in the world. I just cannot believe it when I see the stuff that I get on YouTube, and it's like insane. But so it's a matter of taste, I guess. But I always like to hear something that is genuine and that is like I want to hear the person. And there are not too many. There are a lot of virtuoso crazy players, but there are not too many people that are like, I don't know, maybe at ease with themselves and then just put who they are into their music, whatever it is, whatever it is they do. Whether Sting is a good example of a musician that knows how it just does what he does, and you instantly hear also in his relatively simple bass lines, you can hear that is Sting playing a bass line right there. It's just his approach in a way, I guess. But my first real inspiration was Steve Harris.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Harris. I mean, this guy, right? I mean, I know he's not into theory at all. He's always very honest about that. He's not into music theory or anything, but he's able to translate his personality in a way to the, and of course he writes all the music and stuff, but purely as a bassist, the way, I mean, his approach to the instrument, and he has like an action this high, he hits like that,
bonkers.
You instantly hear this guy. That's him. You know, no mistake about it. That's him, and that's what I like about musicians in general, and in this case, especially bass players. So I always had a curiosity towards many styles of music. But also extremes. So as soon as then I started with Metallica, and then I discovered Morbid Angel, Death, and more and more extreme music back in the day. And I was into that because I just couldn't. I think it was I couldn't place it. I didn't understand what I was listening to, and it was either ugly or bad or not for me, or it was great and awesome. One of those extremes, but nothing in between, right?
Yeah.
So I had to, I just couldn't make up my mind. So I listened to it. My first album was And Justice for All. I listened to this album for weeks without listening to anything else. Weeks, and it was a cassette. Turn it around, play it, side A, side B. And also because of the horrible production.
Right. I was going to say there's no bass on that record. So what were you drawn to?
I think honestly, the first thing I was drawn to was the ugliness. The ugliness of the voice and the bluntness of the whole thing, but also the genius twists and things that were going on, right? So I listened to it for so many times, and then I decided that I loved it. That's what happened. I loved it, and then I went back to their earlier work, and then everything fell into place. And then I discovered all the other metal bands, etc., and got into that. There are no rules. That's just what it's. There are no rules when it grabs you, when it gets into your soul somehow. The music then I guess it's right. And So, but I'm very happy with the fact that I suddenly had, as a result of this spontaneous approach to what I was doing during the first lockdown, I had a clear vision of a direction I wanted to stay in. So it is no longer. It's not like I'm just doing something. I have a very clear idea of the direction. And I'm really happy with that, because I've been experimenting with so many styles and so many things, and just somehow by letting go of everything, things fall into place, and there you have your direction. That is what you are supposed to do, I guess, and that's what I'm doing now. So it just feels great, regardless. It's just a great feeling.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I know the listeners are gonna go like, "Here goes Rob again." I want to hang out with you so bad, because we have such similar tastes. And you know, it's interesting too, you bring up Metallica. Now, I've always, as a drummer, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to slam Lars. I know he gets a lot of heat for his inability to keep time, for example. But here's the thing. People really don't think about Metallica anymore, except guys like us. They don't think of Metallica as anything pre-Black Album, right? I mean, outside of a few hits, you know, their mid-'80s hits, so to speak, they're not considering Metallica to be anything more than what they know from Enter Sandman on. And they don't realize that Metallica was both a thrash band and a progressive metal band. I mean, and Justice for All, that's a progressive album. And there's so much going on. It makes sense, really. I mean, really, Joost, it makes so much sense that you would be drawn to that because of the textures and the time signatures and all the different approaches. Even if you can't hear the bass, you know what I mean? There's something in there that forces you to look at music through a different lens. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It is that is exactly what happens. So something is triggered, right? Something is triggered, and that is what that's what a lot of people, including me, like about music. When you get triggered in a way, you know, when you're like, whoa, what's happening here? You know, something ignites something. That's what I like about music. And it can be anything. It can be world music. I listen to a lot of crazy stuff from North Africa now with crazy rhythms and but it's so pure and it's so raw and it's so intense and it just inspires me, you know. Whether a lot of official not mainstream but official like releases, even though they're great, they just don't ignite the spark as often anymore. It also has to do with age, I guess. But yeah, you know, so I'm always looking for adventurous stuff in music. I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it's interesting because you said a second ago too that, you know, that music with a lot of notes in it, for example, you know, like you could go back to early Steve Harris, or you could go back to any of these musicians on YouTube. There's so many killer players. I mean, there's so many of them, but you know what? They always existed, you know, they've always been there. It's just, they finally have a platform to be seen and heard. And the problem is how do you stand out? And I think nowadays you stand out by playing something, I don't want to say simple, but you play something that the audience recognizes as real, as true. And again, I think what, you know, how Choreomanic struck me was that I was like, oh, okay, this isn't a guy with chops for chops' sake. This is a guy with chops who's choosing to play for the song. And I use this term a lot too, bounce. These pieces have bounce. They're fun to listen to. They're fun to bang your head along with in the car. And I hope there's a long-term plan in place. I hope this isn't a one-off.
No, it isn't. I'll tell you something. The second album is finished. Awesome. It is written. It will take a long time before it's finished because I have to start getting people together, finding ways of financial stuff, everything that comes with getting a record. But I know it will be there within probably 1.5 years. It will be there. Wow. And so the material just comes because, like I said, this direction is there. It has presented itself to me just because I let go of everything and there it was, right? That was the direction. So I just knew, okay, so horns, that's something that works. Not in every song. There are songs without horns also, and also on the new material. But when I feel there should be horns, there are horns. No guitars. It's intense music without any guitar.
Yeah.
Because I just knew it is possible to get the heaviness, the riffing idea, only from the bass if you use the right approach, the right technique, and the right sound, right?
Yeah.
And the drums, not too complicated, right? A lot of drummers, they tend to play every accent. You know exactly what I mean, right?
Yes, I do.
And then some, like the accents that are there, and even more. And that's what most drummers are doing, which is cool. In some cases, it is cool and it works well, but I decided to keep the drums relatively simple, apart from some breaks and some. I mean, I think it's tasteful and it works well with certain rhythm changes and stuff. But you know what I mean. It's not like a lot of the accents that I play on bass. They are so punchy because I use this technique, and it would make no sense for a drummer to overemphasize those accents all the time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it becomes more sort of almost punk and just more raw. I mean, I found this formula that really feels good to me, and I'm really happy with it. And I'm also really happy that it comes across and that you like it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a bit older than you, but I will say this: that growing up with everything from progressive rock to Steely Dan, right? My brain says, okay, it's looking for truth, and right, it's looking for the song to have a melodic direction. It's looking for tasty players without look at me players, right? Because it's great that a musician like yourself can play 64th notes if you wanted to, but you're choosing to play for the song. It's crucial. I mean, there's a reason Steve Gadd is considered to be one of the most important drummers of all time. He can play all the stuff that Portnoy can play. He just doesn't do it. He plays for the song, and then he pulls half of a bar, half of a phrase of a solo, and you go like, whoa, and you have that moment, but then you're right back in the groove and the feel of the thing. And I think that's what works for Choreomanic, because you've got the same thing going on. It's interesting that you mentioned too, no guitars, because of course I've heard the album, and I listened to it and I said, oh wow, it's great. He's got the horns on here. This is really funky and thumping. I never noticed that there weren't guitars.
Nice.
I didn't even consider it. In fact, when you said it just now, I was going to call bullshit, because like, no, I swear. But now that you mention it, yeah, no guitars.
No guitars.
Yeah.
There's keys, and the keys have a certain sound. This guy, I said, just do what you think you should do. I send him some stuff, and do whatever you feel like you should do with the keys. And he had this roaring sound, and he kind of follows the bass in a linear way. He follows the bass line, so that contributes to the idea of a guitar, which is not there. But you get the grittiness, and you get the distorted effect in a way, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it's just how it fell together, and it was instantly what it should be. So that's a bit of luck, I guess, also.
Yeah.
But you just know if you don't care, because that's actually what I didn't care. I was just playing. I was fooling around, but I was like, let's see what happens. And then when things fall into place and when things make sense, you instantly, this is what it should be.
Yeah.
And I guess, and this is something that I learned later on, reflecting on it. When you are totally free, then I think that is the only way to get it right.
Yeah.
Because when you are stuck in all these ideas, how things should work or how they should sound, then you get the same old often, you know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
So, interesting.
Yeah. I don't want this to end. I know we're limited on time. I mean, you have a life, we have things.
Okay. I'm okay. I mean, I have some more time.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I did want to ask this question. This is something that's become sort of near and dear to my heart lately, and it's the you might have seen this mental health crisis in the industry in general. Obviously, the world is suffering. People are suffering. The world, everything's upside down. You have COVID. You have crazy politics. You have threats of war, and they're more amplified nowadays because of social media, and somebody I deeply cherish, who shall remain nameless here, is, going through an insane crisis right now, personally, professionally, and then within the family as well. And so everybody is on the verge, right? Everybody's on the verge of going mad. Everybody's on the verge of fighting. And a lot of musicians are either compounding the problem by doing something to take themselves out of it, like, drugs or alcohol, or sex addictions or whatever. But a lot of people are just ending it. And, I've had 5-6 friends since 2015 take their lives. And it's funny because I look back, it's not funny in the haha, but I look back to 2015 and I say, well, that's not so many. because we live in a world where every day we see on the news or we see on our Facebook page or whatever, blah, 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 passed away. And obviously none of us have answers, or else we would help the others. And at the same token, if we could help the others, would they listen?
Yeah.
And so I this isn't a question so much as it is, I'm curious what your thoughts are. I'm not assuming anything of you, but I personally have suffered from ups and downs and depression. I don't know if I would call it mental illness, but I think as artists, we're programmed from day one. We love music. We love sharing. We love creating. We love inspiring. And when we don't get that audience, when people don't hear us, right? It's my biggest pet peeve at home. If my children don't listen to me, I know you know what I'm talking about. There's something about the musician's experience in life so I'm hoping other musicians hear this, that they realize that we're all in this together. There's this madness in our brains that we have to control and contain. How do you keep yourself even keeled when your greatest desire is to be heard?
Yeah. Well, that works often, but not always. I've lost some friends in the past 5 years, and I've seen a lot of people go sideways, like around me. I've had my own ups and downs, pretty heavy stuff. Mm-hmm. There's no taboo for me. If people claim they're completely sane in these times, you have to be really insane. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, yes. Yeah. So, the ultimate narcissist. That's the ultimate insanity right there. So, I try to. So yeah, I have. I don't have a drug problem. I quit alcohol 16 years ago.
Congratulations. Yeah, thank you. But people often say that's so cool, and so. But I always think it's really cool if you can enjoy a few beers and that's it. And I wasn't able to do that. I just couldn't do that. So I had a choice, and if I made the right choice, otherwise I wouldn't even be here anymore. So that's a simple fact. So yeah. So but I do smoke some marijuana every now and then. Definitely, I enjoy that, and it's my time out. Mm-hmm. But how you stay sane? By accepting the insanity, I guess, in a way. That's how it works for me. I accept the insanity, and I put it in music sometimes. And I think if you fight it, if you try to fight it too hard, it becomes more of an issue in a way. So you have to find a way to make it transparent in a way, so it isn't pulling you down. Like it just everybody knows insanity in some degree. Everybody does. Especially now when you look around. So yeah, and it's a challenge to find the balance. For me, it's a challenge because sometimes I'm just on the phone too much and stuff like that, and it's only screens everywhere. There are screens, and just info. Everybody knows that it's bad for you. Yeah. It's just bad for you. So you have to find a way to work with it, because it is how things work. Now, you and I are talking thanks to this technological solution and thanks to the screens, right? So I'm really happy with these possibilities, because I'm really enjoying this conversation, Me too. But you know what I mean, especially, and you see it with kids and stuff. But for me, I feel blessed that I have this outlet, or whatever you would call it, that I can create music, I can play, obviously I can inspire people. That is the coolest thing of everything of it, that people get back to me. Man, I picked up my bass after hearing your music, stuff like that. That does it for me. That's like, man, that's the ultimate compliment. Like if you can inspire people, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I can inspire people because I don't give much about anything. I just want to do. I want to find the joy in music and cherish that.
There's that word too, joy.
Joy. That's what it's about. Enjoy. It's not about. I'm not sure what the English word is, but a lot of people that geldingsdrang is like if your need to let the people know who you are. That's like,
to express.
Yeah. That's like, but in a negative way. It's like when people just whatever they do, they try to reach as many people as possible so they can to show the world who they are. It's an ego thing, you know.
Yeah.
And that's an ego thing, and that is one way. That can be a motivation to do what you do. I've considered this. I know about this. I'm 48, so when I was younger, I also wanted to let the world know, here I am.
Yeah.
But now it is the motivation is only the urge to create. That is the only motivation, the urge to create, and maybe also the wish to inspire people. So I sometimes teach at schools, primary schools or secondary education, and work with young people, and that is and I'm so happy that I can do that because then I see what music is about. To me, it's very simple. Music is about connection. It's about connecting people. Whether I play on a stage for 10,000 people or whether I'm in a classroom with 20 toddlers playing on little instruments, it's the same principle. It's about connection. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Joost, thank you. That's so true. That is so true. It really is all about people, our purpose, our life. It's about others. It's about connecting. It's about these moments. And I think about that, how often I get to speak to amazing people and how blessed I am to have a connection like this today, that even though, we hadn't met until today, that you forged these new friendships and these new relationships, new potential collaborations. It's all the things, being able to connect with amazing musicians around the world. And at the same time, impacting the listeners so that they hear that, one, that they're not alone, right? That if they're struggling, I'll raise my hand and say, I encourage listeners to reach out to me privately. Feel free, I don't want to necessarily post my phone number live on this, but you see what I'm saying? But still with the proliferation of social media, I'm everywhere, man. I'm everywhere. All you have to do is go to one of those places and send a private message. I will actually respond. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a normal guy who gets to talk to amazing people. And I love the interplay we can have, Joost, because we can talk about the things that convict us, and we can talk about how we admire. I'm not expecting you to admire me, but I admire you because of who you are and what you've done and where you're going. And I'm blown away by the fact that you're 48 years old, because I had no idea. That's why I said, I'm 55. Earlier I had said I'm way older than you, because I thought you were 34 and 34, 35,
Thank you, sir.
Well, you're welcome. But, it kind of makes sense that, so you and I are both older fathers, because I have young children at home now. And I'm sorry for the side, but I think, it's just crucial to connect. That's what this show's about. It's the music thing is cool. It's nice to be able to promote the stuff people are doing, but it's about this. It's about the laser focus of you and I talking to each other and having an experience, which then takes us on a positive path the rest of the day. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it is, definitely. And to me, that is what music is about. when you perform for people, it's your job to make this connection. That's your job.
Yeah.
It's not your job to show people how great you are and or anything like that. It's your job to connect people. I mean, it's that simple. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And it also comes with age. Like I said, I mean, when I was in my first official band, I was like 20. And it was all about me, and my hair was this long, and I was like, "Oh man, what's up?" You know, of course, that's you're supposed to be like that when you're 20. It's cool. My oldest daughter is 22 right now, almost 22, and then I have a 10-year-old and then a 1-year-old. So there's like 10 years in between all the time.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, that's what music is about. So to me, and that's why it is so important, and why people need music, and they need to go to shows, and they need to connect, because that's what it's about. People need to connect, and that is one of the bad things about recent times and about the whole situation, that people tend to become more and more isolated. They're surrounded by screens, and they're not connecting anymore. And I try to stay positive, but it's not easy, because I see young people disconnecting completely. Like they cannot even, have a conversation with each other at an age. I mean, my kids are pretty okay, but I come to schools and places where it's not okay, and these kids, they just cannot connect anymore. They don't know how. Even if they want to, they don't know how. Yeah. And that is really disturbing to me. And so I try to do what I can to do something about that, in some way.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? This is, I want to say this before I let you go. This conversation has actually been really important for me. And I'm going to say out loud why. Because I don't want the listener or you to think it's for a different reason. And it's not me advertising anything either. It's just telling you, today you reminded me of something. You've reminded me of a failure of mine, in regards to my own children, about connecting and about this world and about the sort of the chaos and the tragedy of what's going on. And because everything is so politicized and there's so much, right? I mean, the reason there's so much tribalism going on is because we are isolated. And so we're seeking out somebody who has the exact same opinion as we do. So we have somebody to talk to about it. That's why we're all that's why it's so disparate, right? Why we're so separated. But it actually, I think about because I have 3 young children at home. I have older children who've grown up, and then I have young children at home. So we're very similar in that regard. And my children, they come home from school, and my selfish brain says, "You guys go over there and do your thing. You're home. Go have fun with your friends. Go do your homework, whatever the thing is." But it's kind of an excuse, because my selfish nature wants to kind of be left alone. And I'm maybe even trained up by doing this, right? Then not this communication thing with you, but having these sort of online connections with people. It's like, okay, now it's my time to edit my shows or whatever I'm doing. And when the kids come home, they invade that private space, and my brain wants to push them away. Yeah. And I want to say thank you today. And I mean this, Joost. Thank you so much for reminding me that that there needs to be play, that there needs to be reconnection every day, that there has to be an attempt to reconnect every day with our loved ones.
Really important. But let me say one more thing. I reminded you. I'm very happy I did, but I must honestly admit, and I also really appreciate your honesty, by the way. It's really cool. I must admit, I also reminded myself, because here's the thing. I have exactly the same thing going on. So, so I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying the fact that you recognize every now and then, you realize this, and you can like change things, adjust things, that means that you're aware of these things, and that is what it's about. And it's impossible to do it perfectly every day. I mean, I'm talking about myself now. So I have to accept that I will fail many more times. Probably I have failed, I will fail, but I try to keep these things in mind. So there it is.